Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Oana.
Okay, very fun article today in the Review Journal.
Right. So we know that we, as Nevadans and as people from Las Vegas, we know that nationally we rank either at the very top of everything or at the very bottom of everything.
Yeah.
So where do you think we ranked this time? So write it down in the comments. Leave us a comment. Where did we rank, at the top or at the bottom?
We are not in the middle of anything. We're at the top or the bottom for everything.
We are, absolutely.
It is either exciting or downright depressing. It's interesting. When I was a kid here, and let me do the article. Let me just tell you the article. Las Vegas ranked second for top moving destination list.
Okay.
So we were second. When I was a kid, it was in the 70s. They put this thing out. We had the highest paid teachers in the nation.
Wow.
In Vegas. Mm-hmm. And it was because they were really having to they were having to pay people to move out here to teach because it was starting to grow and they needed teachers. So the annual compensation for a school teacher was substantial. And I think we're bottom 5%, bottom 5 maybe. Mississippi, Alabama are probably paid less. It's pretty low. If you adjust it out for the surrounding population, is not very much.
Okay.
All right. So how did they determine this? Well, Penske truck rental. Okay. Completely scientific.
Absolutely.
Right. You have NASA, you have Jet Propulsion Laboratory, you have SpaceX, and then Penske is up there. They're part of the big four scientific firms. Penske truck rental. So what they did was completely unscientific. They said, "Hey, I'm taking this truck from Seattle and I want to go to Vegas. I'm to drop it off in Vegas." And then here's my question: they're looking at the chart, right? How the hell do they get the trucks back? Because very few people are moving. They had 80,000 people move out of California, right? A lot of them came to Vegas. How do they get the trucks back to get a new load of stuff and so many people can move out? Because there's nobody moved from Texas or Florida to California. So if you grab that rental truck and drove it to Houston, you didn't it doesn't self-drive its way back.
Right. So that's probably why you see such a great disparity in what it costs to rent one-way trucks. So one way for example, from California to Texas is going to be a whole lot more expensive than one way from Texas to California. Yeah,
so here are the rankings. Houston was number 1. Now, this was not indexed for population of the cities, so this was just total. Mm-hmm. Vegas to Orlando, Phoenix, Atlanta, which hasn't been in the top 10 since 2020. They have a new coach. Has turned the program around.
There you go.
Charlotte, North Carolina, that number on that thing is last. This is like football rankings, right? That's what they were last year. So Charlotte was 4th. They must have lost a game, so they dropped down. Dallas was the 7th. That is not the Cowboys. Okay? They're not moving there. Jacksonville, Florida, new. San Antonio, Texas also says this. Every one of these is in the Sun Belt. What's the Sun Belt, Oana?
That is us. So the Sun Belt is the desert Southwest, but it goes all the way over through the southern part of the U.S., all the way to Florida.
It's not an official thing, but if you Google it, you can find a chart. It's just a line that basically is like SoCal. It just gets Vegas. It leaves Reno out. Reno's not part of the Sun Belt. Gets the southern half of Arizona and Mexico. Most of Texas is in the Sun Belt, right? And the southern states, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, parts of North Carolina even kind of get in there. All of Florida, the whole state of Florida is in the Sun Belt. Every one of these is in the Sun Belt. The other thing too that might be misleading about this: what is the demographic of people loading up a rental truck and driving typically?
Well, so that's an interesting thing. So it's unlikely that you're dealing with higher income earners.
No, not, because they usually either they work for a company that has a relo, mm-hmm. or they have a large family and a lot of stuff, and they're not going to load their, all their stuff, right? An accountant is not going to go grab the pool table and throw it on his back and drag it onto a rental truck, right?
Right. So you've got people who are not at the top of the economic scale. You've got people probably that don't have large families, because again, that's a lot of stuff to have to move. Maybe it also has to do with their age. So, and what I mean by that is that maybe younger people don't have as many belongings. So it is more likely that they are going to do a do-it-yourself move versus hiring movers. So, if you're going out of a small place, maybe that makes sense, versus if you're going out of a bigger place where maybe that makes less sense.
So this doesn't include, for example, corporate or, other, like U-Haul doesn't include U-Haul.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't include people like my son, who's a software engineer, who loaded everything in his car, trunk, back seat, passenger seat, that he owned in the world, and then drove it to Texas because he got a software engineering job for a company out of Austin. And he's just like, I'm out of here, and he's gone with all his stuff.
The other thing that doesn't include is all the people who are renting pods, right? Pods is a thing. So, people put all of their belongings in the pods. So maybe they pack them themselves in the pods, and then the moving company comes out, picks up the pod, and then drives the pod across the country or across town, wherever they're moving. So that doesn't include that. So it's a lot of different things that this doesn't include. So, but it is it gives you an idea of what's happening across the country. Maybe not the most accurate, but it's probably not that far off.
Of all 10 of these places, they look super boring except for Vegas. So let's talk about why Vegas is exciting. What do we have? Oh, there was some super breaking news announced today. Oh. That's super good. Everyone knows by now. Okay, we're getting the A's, the baseball team.
But we knew that.
Okay, originally they put a letter of intent to buy like all this land off like Valley View and Flamingo, I think, right?
Somewhere in there,
Tropicana maybe, right? No, I think it was Flamingo. Okay, and it's all industrial area. Well, they actually changed their mind. They have a new letter of intent. They made an agreement with, I forgot the name of the company that owns it, but it's where the Tropicana is.
See, and that was the original thing that was supposed to happen. So they were supposed to go where the Tropicana was, but then they did this letter of intent, and they were going to be between the football stadium and the Rio, and across from the T-Mobile Arena. And now they're back where the original intention was over by the Tropicana.
So they're going to build on the Strip this massive $1.5 billion baseball thing. I don't know what other things they'll use it for. It's a baseball stadium, but I'm sure they can. Maybe they can do concerts there or what. But they'll try to find another use for it But baseball's. I mean, think about it. Imagine this. Okay, first of all, you're in Vegas, and in Major League Baseball, they play a ton of games, right? They have this massive season, and they play a bunch of games at home, and then they get on a plane and fly somewhere, and then they play a bunch of games on the road. But you could have teams coming here to play away, like not home games. Now, people, they don't like to do that because they like to keep their revenue. But there may be other benefits to playing here and stuff. I guarantee that there will be a bunch of maybe the college championships and all those, will want to play out in Vegas. The Pac-12 for sure will come out. They already play football here. A bunch of conferences will want to come out here and play their conference baseball championships out here as well, probably. The coolest thing about this is going to be, though, when they implode the thing.
The Tropicana.
The Tropicana, Talk About Houses will be the sponsor, of course. We'll have our banner going between the two buildings. We talk about houses, and then as the two buildings come down, the towers come down, our little thing will come down and everything. And that is not the real estate market crashing. When people say that's the real estate market crashing, that is not. We might be one of the sponsors. It's possible.
So so there's a little bit of nostalgia, I think, for a lot of people, because the Tropicana is one of the last remaining older properties on the Strip. So there's going to be some nostalgia there. It's one of the only ones at Circus, but the Tropicana is way earlier in Circus. When I was a kid here, with all the hotels my parents worked out are gone. The Sands, the Dunes, the Frontier. That my mom was a waitress at the coffee shop for 15 years. She literally went to the same coffee shop for 15 years and worked as a waitress. Dad worked at the front desk.
the Stardust. They worked at the Riviera for a while. Like they worked all over the place, and they're all gone. Like they're all the places we used to go are gone. Castaways is gone. Like everything's gone, and they've got these new things. And now they're talking about imploding the Mirage or something. They talked about one of the
right. The Mirage is getting imploded. Yes.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So I mean, anyway, that's Vegas, I guess, right?
Yes.
But so what else do we have? We have a ton of stuff. We have Grand Prix here. Like there's a lot of stuff here. Okay, here's the best thing: jobs.
Right.
Super easy to get a job. One of the few cities do not need a PhD to get a job.
No,
this is not Boston, and this is not Huntsville, Alabama.
No, and we have a lot of construction jobs. We have a lot of service jobs. So we do have a lot of jobs that do not require higher education, which kind of circles kind of back to what you were talking about at the beginning about teachers. So Las Vegas, we are a fun place. We have a lot of jobs. We have a lot of jobs that don't require college degrees. We do have a university. We do have a medical school. We do have a law school. We do have all these educational opportunities. However, because of the nature of our economy and because a lot of our jobs do not require higher education, our young people don't necessarily choose education. And part of that has to do with their family backgrounds. So, again, when your family comes from a service or a construction background, education might be aspirational, but it might not be the top of mind thing. You might, end up going in some sort of service industry like your parents or in construction. So that's part of the reason why, we are not, our population is not as highly educated as other metro areas, even though we have educational opportunities. As far as teachers are concerned, we don't rank as with the highest paid teachers, but I think there's more to it than that, because we also, like I said, we have this dynamic where education is not top of mind for parents, so it does not become top of mind for students. So that's part of what goes on here. So you do hear about people complaining about education in Southern Nevada, and there is kind of this, like I said at the beginning, we're either at the very top or at the very bottom. We have some excellent schools at all levels, and we have some schools that are not the schools that you would want your children going to, because they're not performing schools.
But we're not going to tell you which schools they are. You have to figure it out on your own.
And so Clark County School District, go to their website, and they have all the information about which schools and how they perform and all of that. So that's really important to figure out. We do redistrict every spring, which means that your kids could go to a different school every year. It doesn't happen anymore because for the most part, the city's pretty settled. But it used to happen back in the boom times in between 2000 and 2007. That happened a lot with redistricting.
The house I lived in as a kid has been zoned for 3 different high schools. Mm-hmm. Almost 4. Right. It actually, for a semester, for one half of a year, all the kids had to go to a different high school for just that one semester. But so depending on when you lived in the same house that I lived in, it was different high schools. And it just because as they add schools, they have to move people around and like pack more people in. Okay, so here's another. Okay, so first of all, we have the least number of college grads per capita.
Right.
Most of our college grads, though, are just the teachers, right? They're all college grads, and then people who work in professional, doctors and lawyers and people like that. But every place has those, so we don't have like an advantage. And if you have a bigger population, you have more. And then if you go to cities like with big universities, like if you go to Boston where they have like 30 different universities, then they have a ton of people with college education. We don't have that. It's not a big deal here. When I was in high school, I remember that you could graduate in 3 years. It was extremely easy because all you had to do was senior year. If you took early bird government, you could finish in 3 years because you needed 3 years and then 1 credit. So you needed 19 credits. So a lot of people did that. And the reason they did it is because they just wanted to work and make money. And there was no emphasis about going. If you went to college, you went to UNLV, which is basically a city college, right? And we did have some kids who went and left and went to other places. But for the most part, what everybody did was they just wanted to work. so that when they turned 21, they could go to dealer school, because dealers made good money dealing, and everyone had to start off dealing blackjack, because that was the game everybody hated to deal. So you start off dealing blackjack. So if you ever went to casino like a long time ago, a lot of the blackjack dealers were pretty young. They were, that was a starting job. And if you wanted to end up on roulette or something else, or craps or whatever, it was hard to get over there. And then the next progression was pit boss. Pit boss paid a lot of money, because you were sort of you were in charge of a bunch of tables, or the pit of all the things. And that's what, like, I have relatives in town, cousins and stuff, and the whole family worked in that industry. So, but it's pivoting now, because it's not about the gambling. There's way more to do here. There's, when you go to the hotel casinos, you see the gambling floors, but then you have all the restaurants that we never had that many restaurants, and you have all the shows and all the exhibits and all the other, they have rides and.
Right, but again, none of those things require an advanced degree. However, we do have a lot of the corporate headquarters of different gaming companies here, and those jobs tend to have advanced degrees. And then we have other manufacturing and other industry here, and so depending on what that is, those may have advanced degrees. So we are getting better as far as having a better educated population. But again, like I said, by and large, most of our population has positions that do not require higher education, and so a lot of their children end up not having higher education, which is unfortunate. And kind of what Todd said about Boston and places like that are college towns. Las Vegas is not a college town. While we have a university and we have a medical school and we have a law school, we are not a college town. We simply have those as part of an educational system that can support those schools by virtue of our population and by virtue of other people wanting to come study here. Now, we do have a fantastic hospitality program at UNLV. We do have all kinds of really good programs at UNLV, so please don't misunderstand. UNLV is not a bad school. It is a very good school, depending on the specialty, but that applies to all schools, right? All schools have some programs that are outstanding, for which they are renowned, and other programs that are just run-of-the-mill, and UNLV is no different in that respect.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. If you compare us to San Diego population-wise, we're not substantially that much smaller than them. And we basically have UNLV. And they have San Diego State, which is much larger. They have UC San Diego in La Jolla, which is probably bigger than UNLV. Maybe not, but it's pretty big. Then they have the University of San Diego. They have Point Loma College, the Nazarene College. They have all these other colleges all over the places. They have, and they're basically the same size as us. So
right.
Not really a college town. Now, Oana and I, though, are both college graduates.
Right.
We each have at least a 4-year degree. I have an advanced degree.
Right. So, the other thing is that UNLV is not the only college in the state. Northern Nevada has University of Nevada, Reno, and that is actually a pretty substantial institution, which again is renowned for certain programs like mining and business administration and other programs. So it really depends. Yeah. They're just different. It would be nice if Southern Nevada had other opportunities, other educational opportunities, but I think what comes first is the capacity to fill those slots. And until we have a population that values education more, and whose students are interested in higher education and invest in their own education with their time, energy, and efforts, then I don't know that that's going to happen. And it's not always up to the parents. I mean, some of us were invested in our own education regardless of the input of our parents. So I think part of it is just a cultural issue as well. And we're not going to get into that, but it's just something to kind of keep in mind.
Yeah, but other than that, Vegas is a great place to live.
It is.
We love it here. There's a ton of stuff to do, and
yeah.
All right.
So if you live in Vegas, tell us what you thought about our comments. Please add to it, because we do know that we left out so much about Vegas, both good and bad. If you don't live in Vegas, ask us questions, make comments. We welcome everything. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell. like the video, share the video. Excuse me, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.